What's going on, guys? It's Adam A.K. Marf, and today's show is going to be very special. We're going to go over every reason why we believe that the U.S. and China are about to go at it. We're going to have backup proof, every single source that we have with logical reasons why we believe this is going to happen. Not, I heard this or I heard that. Again, that has already been done. We're going to put together everything for you and be able to make this so you can share this out to friends and family and get them to prepare. We'll be right back right after this. All right, what is going on, guys? It's Adam A.K. Marf, and this is Marfoogle News. Today, we are going to talk about, of course, China. We're going to talk about the U.S., and we're going to talk about the reasons why we believe that something is about to happen. Again, this is all with reasons. A lot of the stuff that we have here today, everything has a source on our website. If you go, in fact, to marfooglenews.com, you will see that we actually have updated all of the sources for today's show. That way, if someone you share this with says, sources, please, they will actually have them right there. So they can't say that this is fake news or that this is not happening. Again, I believe that most people are not, in the know of what is actually going on in China and what is happening as far as what they're doing on their end. We know what we're doing, and of course we hear all of this kind of rhetoric, but what are they actually doing over there? We're going to talk about that. Now, if you go to the website, marfooglenews.com, you'll see WR within 2 years. And once you click on that, you will see that we have every document, every PDF, every file, every, of course, article, every single news source is right there for you to access. In fact, you can follow along. This is a live show, so anything can happen. We're going to go over the most extreme stuff in just a second here. But yeah, everything is there for your enjoyment. All right, so let's move this a little bit. Bam, bam. All right, so let's get started. Let's bring in my co-host / internet brother, Dex. What is going on today, and how are you doing?
Well, hello, Adam, and hello, Foogle fam. I'm doing just fine.
So we have a lot to go over and a short amount of time. We are going to be doing a show after this on Marfoogle TV, so stay tuned for that. All right, let's get right into it. So a lot of people do not know that that in China there are several companies that if you did want to move to China, technically they are an enemy, but a lot of people do go there. They visit there. They have, of course, visiting visas or tourist visas, and they have business visas. They can do certain types of business. Mostly, you cannot own your own business there if you're a foreigner. What you can do is you can own one with a citizen, and again, it's only with that you can own one. As far as how most people get into China and living over there and actually doing well is by teaching English. In fact, you cannot get a normal job in China. You cannot get a janitor job. You can't get a construction job over there if you are a foreigner, if you do not have citizenship. There are specialist classes that you have to have. Now, in the last couple weeks, overnight, they have bankrupted companies, they have changed rules, and they are basically trying to move away. This quickly kind of goes over some of that. It says Shanghai bans English exams amid calls for less English teaching. By the way, there's so much more. This is insanity. Authorities in Shanghai have canceled primary school English exams in a bid to lighten the burden on children and parents amid growing calls for English to be de-emphasized in China's state schools. So, one, this is something that is, there are several companies, there are several companies, including Wall Street English, that have basically gone completely bankrupt. And the reason why is these schools, these training schools, are no longer going to be around. In fact, there was a user, Serpensa, who is close to 900,000 subscribers, did a video on it about a week ago, and that's actually how he got into China. That's how you get successful. He explains how, of course, you can go over, teach English, and then, the step up guys kind of go up from teaching English up to owning an actual training school. Well, those training schools, especially the successful ones, are all basically trying to hang on to threads. They're changing rules, they're changing laws, because they are trying to get away from the U.S. They are trying to get away from English. Again, they are basically changing things so that's not going to be an option anymore. If you thought that was, kind of your dream, that is something that is absolutely going away, which, again, that is pretty extreme in itself. But then, of course, we have Xi Jinping's crackdown on effeminate men, gamers, and private tutoring cannot be ignored. Which, by the way, it's illegal. It's basically the people that are surviving as English teacher are doing it under the table and somewhat illegally. I believe it is illegal. And they are doing privately. They are getting paid a lot because now those parents that want to teach their kids English cannot do so through one of these training schools. They have to go through somebody who is already there that is somehow snuck in, and then, of course, still there. By the way, the people that are doing that, their visas are going to run out in a matter of time because now they're not going to have that official reason to be there. So there's, a very short time period that's even going to work. And check this out. So they're moving away from that. They are cracking down on effeminate men, which, again, by itself alone, you're like, oh, they're trying to be tough guys. Well, when you see all of the rhetoric that they are pushing out right now, basically they're telling their citizens through their main mouthpieces that to get prepared for a conflict directly with the USA. They are basically cutting out all kind of fandom of Western culture. They are cutting out pretty much everything that is popular, BTS, all these things that, of course, people gathered around and were big fans of. They don't want that anymore. They don't want anybody worshiping, of course, Western idols, anything like that. They are actually reducing all of the stuff that is coming out of Hollywood. They're reducing everything. They're clamping down on it. They are also cutting down on gaming. We covered it last week. Basically, you are allowed, if you are a youth, 1 hour per week of gaming. And I believe that is because a lot of kind of the external culture that comes through that is people talking online, and it's not so much controlled, and people are talking about things like, hey, you live there, oh man, those guys are horrible. Over here we have freedom, we have this, we have that. But also it's exposure to gaming, and in gaming, especially modern gaming, there's a lot of Western culture, a lot of how we live and a lot how we are. I mean, shoot, most of the popular games by, of course, Rockstar, like Red Dead Redemption and things like that screams Western culture. Things like GTA, definitely bad, right? Well, they're limiting that. Again, that is happening. And then taking from the rich. They are doing a huge push against any kind of capitalism, and I mean huge. By the way, we haven't even gotten to the military stuff yet. That comes in just a second. By the way, Dex, if you want to pop in, there's a lot of stuff here. Me and you have been going over this for a couple days now, and there's some pretty extreme stuff happening all at once.
Well, yeah, and what it seems like to me, and it's sort of obvious, is they said, hey, let's jump on this capitalism bandwagon. Let's build up all of our resources. Let's, get the spoils from this as much as we can. And now that we've got what we need, okay, now we're going to back right back to where we were. We're going to go right back to the fundamentals of the CC and say that's going to be this way, and we're going to eliminate all these things that we don't like, that we don't want to have, and we're going to, basically suppress all of that information again.
And so what we're talking about too is they did not do the capitalism thing before 1979. They hopped back on that wagon. They made extreme amounts of money. They had a lot of intellectual property theft. They stole ideas from all over the world, and then they recreated there. They let people do extremely cheap labor in China, and they produce things for the whole world. Back in 2000, we actually showed you a map that said it had two different options. It said red and blue, and it had basically who was doing greater trade with. And it was with the U.S., And back in 2000, the whole world was blue, except for, of course, China. And then now, basically all of those places that used to do greater trade with us now do greater trade with them. By the way, anything that we say here, since they are everywhere, who knows how this will go. So make sure to share this out to Facebook and everywhere else that you can while you can. So they have now raked in so much, and they've kind of, I think they've fooled the world as far as that people think that they're not doing well or something like this. They have put every dollar they have into military. They surpassed us just in the last couple of years in their Navy size. They are now the largest Navy in the world. Some think that they are now the largest Air Force, but that is not confirmed yet. And then some believe that they have more vehicles, land vehicles, and tanks than we do. But those have not been confirmed yet. There are the same whispers and chatter that were, a year and a half before we found out that they had the largest Navy, which they were making all of their ships undercover. So they're massively producing. They're also taking from anyone that is big. We have several instances here. You might be familiar with Alibaba. We'll get to that here in a second. But in fact, some of the billionaires that are Chinese billionaires that are the very few up on that list of the world's richest people, a couple of those are Chinese, and even fewer than that, they're missing. We've got a missing billionaire that has been missing since basically February. So people don't know if he's been taken out or what, but again, I'll leave that up to you. It says China's economy created tremendous wealth at great speed over the last decade. Just a few years ago, UBS put the pace at 2 billionaires a week. It says this week, President Xi Jinping spelled out the clearest terms yet that he has a very different vision for the future. Instead of minting billionaires, China's economy should be creating common prosperity, pronounced the Party top policy setting body for economic affairs. While it remains unclear how exactly the government will go about achieving that objective, it does seem fairly certain that Beijing will be undertaking a campaign of wealth redistribution in which taxes increase for the rich so that the more can be provided to the poor. Now, again, most of that's going to go to the military, not to the poor. And, of course, celebrities. Several celebrities have been worse than canceled. If you think cancel culture here is a bad thing, think about actually being, basically blackballed or frozen, bank accounts frozen, all sorts of stuff. It says, why is this clamping down on China's biggest stars and fan clubs? Well, one reason is they don't want any kind of fandom. They don't want people worshiping any kind of idols. They're bringing it back. They're bringing it back to Chinese culture, to older Chinese culture. It says a version of the story. Meanwhile, it says a China newsletter, a 3 times a week update exploring what you need to know about the country's rise and how it impacts the world. It says the crackdown came quickly and sweepingly, wiping out some of China's biggest stars and fan clubs in a matter of days. Again, these are things that happened almost overnight, all at the same time. It says, over the past week, China's entertainment industry has become the latest to fall into the crosshairs of the ruling following Xi's clampdown on political dissent, social activism, ideological liberalism, and private businesses. Zhao Wei, one of China's most prominent actresses, saw her presence mostly scrubbed from the country's internet overnight. Again, these are celebrities there. These are people that are just absolutely, idolized, and they were just scrubbed from their singular internet. This is, again, why Russia and China, they separated their internet, and they made it so if they don't like something, they get rid of it. It would be like if, it would be kind of like what we did with several people here, only you wouldn't be able to go to that fringe website and find them. You just would not be able to find them at all. You wouldn't be able to go to, Rumble or any of these things. You would just not find them. Even in Wikipedia or white pages, gone. Just straight gone. So her and many others have just overnight disappeared, been scrubbed from their local internet. That is a scary, scary thing, and some even predict that it is something that is what other places in the world are turning into. Why? We don't know. It says, what's behind China's video game restrictions? It says, things were looking bad for young Chinese gamers. By early August, it says a state-run newspaper had just equated online gaming with opium, likely striking a chord in the psyche of a country targeted with Western powers during the 19th century. opium wars. It says remnants of that era of national shame are carefully preserved for tourists and school children. Shares the country's biggest game company crumpled in the response to the harsh rhetoric. And last week, new rules had been issued that sharply limit the time that children may spend on the wildly popular diversion, right? That's what they consider it. Online gaming in the country is now available to people younger than 18 from 8 p.m. to 9 p.m. only on Fridays. Pretty incredible, right? This is on top of all information, all entertainment, now all gaming, now all of this. Why is it all happening? We'll get to that, because man, oh man, there is a lot all at once. And we're not looking for a pat on the back. We just want people to know that our subscribers that have been here for 3 years, they saw this coming, because we had the Foogle fam behind us. We had tons of information, tons of military, tons of employees. Of course, we had employees of all different kinds of places telling us that this was going to happen. And now look at it. And then we, of course, have the rising risk of China's intellectual property theft. Of course, they had all of these companies that were ripping off and basically taking ideas, basically doing the knockoff versions. That was making them millions and millions and millions of dollars, billions of dollars. And then they're even cracking down on that. So they're taking these companies that are doing that, and then they're busting them down a bit, or if they don't, give basically a huge chunk of it back to China. So if they don't, then they're not going to be successful. It says, a few bizarre sightings aside, Chinese tech billionaire Jack Ma hasn't been seen in 9 months. He, of course, is the man behind Alibaba. You've probably seen Dax. Am I right? He is the one that is behind Alibaba, right?
Yeah, Alibaba and Ant, and yeah, he's a huge billionaire there. Created a lot of technology, and he's basically in hiding, or I don't know if it's forced or if it's on his own choice. But yeah, we haven't seen much of him.
So some have the theory that he was taken out by, of course, the 3-letter country there, but some say that he may be in hiding, which is also a bad sign. He has not been seen since, I believe, February, when he went golfing. Before that, he made one appearance, and then he's just been gone. Again, a lot of these billionaires and their companies are getting cracked down on. In fact, we just saw that Soros, the man himself, the one that everybody talks about, right? Surprisingly went anti-China recently. He just basically put out there that Blackwater, this company, huge company, it's a financial advisor, financial company that invests money, is basically having millions or thousands of clients basically invest in China. And he says that that's a huge mistake, that everything is about to, fall apart on China as far as investing there as a U.S. company or a U.S. person or anyone in the world. And that says something too. That says that they're expecting something big. It says, when China invades Taiwan, these ships will be key to Beijing's success. We've actually talked about this, how they have put it into law just recently, as far as in the last few years, that all ships, including industrial ferries that take people just across small little waterways, they've even turned tiny ferries that take 6 to 8 cars into these military convertible vehicles. We showed you pictures of the ferries that they, by law, have to make everything with the future of conflict in mind. The reason why is because China knows that when they go to conflict, when they hit that 3-letter word, the WAR, that they are going to need to transport over 1 million soldiers. And they don't have that capability without using both commercial and public sectors for their vehicles. So that means ferries. The ferries, unlike ours that you drive onto, they actually have these lift-up drop gates that are made for tanks, landing vehicles. They've basically turned everything they've made for the last couple of years into landing vehicles for some sort of invasion, or, I don't know how you would use those for defense, right? Or island hopping, or whatever you want to call it. At the same time, the U.S. has been ordering these things like crazy. We've been doing island hopping drills with all of our allies. At the same time, everybody's talking about how they might be together or in cahoots. Whether they are or not, it looks like they're painting us a very clear picture of what is to come. And then the ghost cities. The ghost cities, now this is just a theory because this is some stuff is starting to come in, and I don't know if this is the reason for this. Dex, we were talking about this earlier as far as what the ghost cities possibly could be. Now, what do you think? And could you sum up our conversation?
Well, it's interesting. There's a couple of theories on it. One was that they needed to increase more buildings for people that are living from out in the countryside into the cities. Another was that they were building and spending money that they needed to spend. And then, of course, the third is we don't know what they're doing, and there's some sort of plan to actually use all these buildings at some point to inhabit a large amount of people, whether it's from their own country or from other countries.
Now, no one is living there. These are all uninhabited. These are all vacant, and there's just tons of them. There's more. Most of these pictures were from just 3 or 4 years ago. They have continued building, and they have not loaded these up at all. So these are just empty buildings, and people have a financial reason. They say it's so they can keep workers working and this and that. Also, they have replicated all of these major locations. In fact, on this main picture on this, or it should show one of these, shows basically an Eiffel Tower. See, this is one of the locations. Now, it is made, and as you can see, it's made to replicate Paris, France. It even has the quarter. It goes all the way up to the fake Eiffel Tower. What would that be for? Would that be for, say, billionaires that are from France that have allied with them or helped them, and they have a seat at the table after everything goes down? If anyone is there, do you think if we did get in a full-scale kind of back and forth, do you think we would attack empty ground? Do you think we would take this out? Or do you think we would hit the cities that everybody's in? Now, after they take everybody out in the cities that they are in, all of its rubble, and maybe it's a back and forth and we've destroyed each other, they move into all of these brand new places that are replicated to look like all of these places in the world. That's just a theory. As far as the ghost cities, maybe that is, why they are doing it, other than, of course, the financial reasons they say they have. I don't believe anything that comes out of there. I don't see how you could possibly make that many uninhabited. I mean, we're talking about hundreds and hundreds of thousands of units and places. These are all empty. These are empty buildings. It's like the NK on steroids. I mean, this is like it's not a facade. These are actual houses. They're all made up to ready to live in, but nobody's there. And it's not like it's getting a problem to get people to live there. It's just that they're not used, and there's still no, explanation that makes sense in my mind. How China's Worldview took over Hong Kong. Now, there's a lot of stuff going on with, of course, Hong Kong. Hong Kong got taken over early, or basically they got absorbed into mainland. Now, there are many people that live in China that basically say that people in Hong Kong went from having a constitution, went from having all that to not to having freedom of speeches and things like this, and then not. They went from having these a lot of different abilities and things to do to nothing very, very quickly. It says Hong Kong's changing stance on sensitive issues like Tunun is a cautionary tale for the rest of the world. Hong Kong's fake news law, which would target what authorities consider misinformation, is the latest attempt after the forced closure of Apple Daily to keep views that clash with the official narratives out of the media. While the details of the legislation are still lacking, views have already changed, revolving around what is considered truth versus fake news in incidents that define the city, whether in the near or distant past. So what they did there with Apple Daily, they actually charged the owner of this free, newspaper that journalism with sedition and treason. And what locals have said there, especially locals who do any kind of creation, said that they, if they, speak out, especially foreigners, if they speak out, it can be used against them, their families, their married-in citizens. It can be used. These laws can actually be used to actually charge them with sedition and treason. The thing is that China has a constitution that is just on paper, and basically they don't enforce any of it as far as the freedoms that they say they have in there, only when it is basically convenient. They'll actually back it up when they need to defend themselves from world, politics, right? So that is one thing there. And then, of course, thousands of ships, millions of troops. China is assembling a huge fleet for the conflict with Taiwan. Now, we saw, of course, the tons and tons, to over 200 of these commercial ships turned into military boats. And they actually lined them up. They connected them in the South China Sea. That's just one part of it. They made the Spratly Island. They built an FOB, or a forward operating base, in the Spratly Islands. They basically made this fuel up point. It is a base. It is airfields, multiple airfields, and a place for their Navy to dock and to refuel and to get started back out if they need to. On top of that, they have put anti-air, all these different defenses on it. We've been watching that situation, of course, for a long time. Now, of course, if they take Taiwan, they're going to have another strategic advantage when you couple that with, of course, Russia. Will we do anything? Whether we do or not, other countries are saying that they will. So all those other countries that are our allies, it depends. Is all of this stuff going on right now to make us look weak? I don't know. But again, the actions that have just transpired in the last 2 weeks, in the last 2.5 weeks in China, they show a lot of their cards. And then why a U.S. military base became a center for Chinese conspiracies. So this basically goes over, and you can read this. This is a source that we just did because they, through their official mouthpieces, through their official sources, through, of course, the Shanwan paper and the daily, I think the People's Daily or the Daily People. Dex, do you remember what the other one is called?
Yeah, it's People's Daily.
The People,
news.cn.
The People's Daily are the mouthpieces. Nothing gets printed on those newspapers that is not officially approved by the Chinese president. Some stuff just came out on the 29th that basically has put it out to all of China that we are behind this current event with the stuff, and that it came from a very specific base here in the U.S. Now, when it comes from that newspaper, Serpensa put it in a really good way that it is considered gospel. That is something, those are facts that is put in those papers. If they are in those two papers specifically, then that is what the head mouthpiece is saying, then that is what is true. Again, so they put not only that, basically to prepare for conflict, basically putting all of this, and we have a document for that as well. Incredible. And people do say, like Serpensa said, it's a document. It's not a article. It's not an opinion piece like something out of CNN or Fox. This is a approved piece straight from the mouthpiece of China.
And this is not just, an accident of something that happened in the U.S. They're saying this is a direct offense against China from the U.S.
Exactly. So we're, this is, they're not mincing words here. They are being very, very specific. They say that all of this stuff that is happening, they're telling their citizens that all of the different law changes and the things that are happening, like banning effeminate men, is needed to happen because they need to prepare their country to be tough. And I mean, like, savage. Think about that. If we were getting ready for conflict and they were like, we're just not going to show anything, anything that makes you look like a wussy, back in the day where it was like boys couldn't cry and this and that. It's like that on steroids again. And imagine here that happening. Anything that would make you emotional just taken out of the entertainment. It says, is the losing its mandate of heaven? Why we put this here is so you can understand that heavenly mandate, what Xi Jinping says in their culture, because of some of the disasters, because of the CV, because of all the things that are going on. It was going around social media, their version of social media that is monitored, that Xi had lost the heavenly mandate, or the mandate of heaven. It's basically saying that the gods are saying that he is not fit to rule the country, They believe in this. This is something that Xi heavily believes in. And, of course, people that have grown up with him, it is incredibly important to him. He is the judge, jury, and executioner. He is everything there, right? And he thoroughly believes in it. He has monitored his people, and his people have been chatting. They've been dissenting. They've been saying, this guy has lost it. We've had these horrible floods, freak flash floods, which in their culture, that's a sign from God that the leader needs to change. So I don't know if some of these changes are so he can get the people behind him again, maybe the older crowd. Certainly not the younger crowd, because the younger crowd are the ones that are doing it. It's like you try to take away anything good from them so they submit. And then for the older crowd, they'll be cheering them on because it goes back to old mainland, China ways, something like that. Again, they are talking about this all over on WeChat and on Weibo and on their local monitored kind of tracking device that they have every person a part of. That is basically what is going around China, and he doesn't like it. He's very pissed off. And then flooding continues to devastate Shangzhou City in central China. Of course, we put that there. That was one of the main events that after this, it was the huge, it was just like, it was all over Weibo. It was all over the place. People got in trouble. People got tickets. People got fines for putting out negative statements against the Chinese government. And it was after one of these flash floods. And it was because people said he lost the heavenly mandate. And then we have China splits the internet while the U.S. dithers. Again, it's they ended up doing this back in the day. I believe we put this in here because Eric Schmidt, and the big daddy of this company, back in the day, just a few years back, they had done Project Dragonfly, and they basically helped. One thing that I want you guys to think about is who is all connected, who is helping our enemy, and who is doing a lot of this stuff that was a few years ago. It's very freaky because when you think forward to everything that is happening to the 1 million man team that they have on their bankroll to change things online, it kind of makes a whole lot of sense. Who knows? Maybe there's algorithms to help that designed by familiar faces. And then, of course, employ undercover ongoing work on censored search, right? So this alone, I'll have you guys read. This is what we're talking about. That bug right there, the most efficient predator. Again, one little fact about dragonflies, they are the most efficient predator in nature. In fact, they're a greater efficient predator than the great white. It's a 95% ratio because they can predict. This is kind of funny because I don't think there's any mistake behind this. They can predict where a fly is going to turn before it turns. Their eyes are so big and they're so fast, and they have 4 wings so they can basically go, turn on a dime. They actually can predict before a fly changes direction and be there waiting for it. All of this is done in fractions of a second. So it's just kind of ironic that they named the search engine that. So predicting what you're going to do next. And then China helping Russia on Northern Sea route now, but ready to push Moscow aside later. This basically says that they're opening up this channel in the Atlantic. They're moving things around all over the place, but mainly they're breaking the ice, and they're making their own strait. And it will only be, hey, me and Russia hanging out
in the Arctic.
In the Arctic, yes. This we put in here, again, some of these are just kind of talking points. Tianjin, if you remember Tianjin, that was a very strange thing happening. There's been a huge amount of strange things happening since 2015 as far as these weird events, these huge boom, boom, booms. And a lot of them are suspected to be what we now know as fact. Now, remember when Tianjin happened, the entire internet talked about how there was this possible thing called energy that was directed, right? You switch that around, and it was a bad thing. 5 years ago, 6 years ago, or whatever it was, when this happened, that was so bad that people were getting booted. I remember that was before I was on YouTube, and I was watching YouTubers getting deleted over suggesting that, DE was a real thing. So DEW, right? And now it is not only a official fact, it was actually put out by the Department of Defense in a press briefing that China and Russia have weaponized space. Now, when you go back to this, it goes, oh, well, maybe that was a test for what was to come. And then, of course, what happened in the last year and a half as far as we had an amphibious carrier, which I've talked about many times before, an amphibious assault carrier, one of our, big and super advanced assault carrier that is specifically for unloading boats, and it has kind of this U shape so where the boats can pull in and all of the amphibious vehicles. So all of the amphibious, personnel carriers can drop out onto a beach and just go right off, and it can actually basically pull right up on the beach. Ours, I believe, no, I'm sorry, China. Dex, do we know it was China's first, right? Or were we first?
No, theirs was first.
Theirs was first.
Theirs was in dock and almost finished.
And caught fire for 5 days, and it was billowing smoke, and it was in port. It wasn't at battle. There was no missile. There was no nothing. And then just a few months later, because that was their assault carrier, their amphibious assault carrier, the same exact kind of boat, but theirs, and their brand new one, mind you, just a couple months later, all of a sudden, our ship caught fire, which they ended up, and it was an amphibious assault carrier, they ended up catching it, and the official story is that it was a TikToking 19 or 21-year-old kid that was, hated the military, and he set a fire. But then they even said that the DNA from the matches, or supposedly whatever it was, didn't match his. So basically, he gets to be the face of it, gets charged, and possibly even get all of the charges dropped, and then everybody has a solution for why it happened, and then everybody forgets. They put up, that thing and whatever. I don't know if can we check if he actually did get charged and is in prison, or did he get off of the charges, or if it's just in a holding pattern. Maybe the chat can tell us. Again, but the story was just really weird. They showed this kid that, they basically made him out to be like this criminal mastermind. And when you watch his TikToks, he's hardly but. I mean, the guy was, nice looking kid. Not, he wasn't, he wasn't a criminal mastermind by the looks of it or by the sounds of it, but whatever. And then, of course, the A-10 Warthogs practicing to land on the highways, practicing doing all of this stuff. This is the first time in the U.S. history that A-10 Warthogs, that will support frontline soldiers, were practicing on U.S. highways. The reason why you would need to practice on U.S. highways, or even use that if a real event happened, the reason why you would use U.S. highways to take off and land with military planes, and especially frontline military planes, is because all of the bases around would be destroyed. What are they preparing for? Again. And then fire breaks out. This was the .075 amphibious fire ship. The Bonhomme Richard was our version of this. And then, of course, China has first-rate capability to melt U.S. power with electromagnetic pulse weapon. They have now this insane new class and this insane new version of this. This is last week the EMP Task Force on National and Homeland Security issued a scary report on China's ability to conduct an electromagnetic pulse attack on the U.S. The key takeaway, according to Dr. Peter Pry, executive director of the task force, is that now China has super EMP weapons, knows how to protect itself against an EMP attack, and has developed protocols to conduct a first strike attack, even as they deny they would ever do so. According to the Center for Strategic International Studies, China has the most active ballistic missile development program in the world. So they, so they doubly troubling. China used the stolen U.S. technology to develop at least 3 types of high-tech weapons to attack the electric grid and key technologies that could cause a surprise Pearl Harbor attack that could produce a deadly blackout to the entire country. So there's that. Dr. Peter Pry is, of course, the chair of this group, but that's only part of it. The U.S. actually put out a DHS, a Department of Homeland Security warning, just a couple years ago in 2018, that every U.S. citizen should have anywhere from 6 months to a year worth of food. If you don't believe us, we have attached that actual PDF. That is a warning from DHS that you should have 6 months to a year of food just in case of an EMP/CME. So if we lose power for any reason, we have a massive national grid failure. And then all of the Chinese nuclear scientists, it says, urge readiness for electromagnetic pulse attack. This also goes in through things we've actually covered just recently. It says China should bolster its defenses so that critical infrastructure could withstand potential future. The United States is vulnerable to damage caused by extremely powerful electromagnetic pulses, but by 2032, it will have built up the capability to protect its vital infrastructure from such an attack. So basically, by then it will. But that means there's a window. There's a window that this would all happen. It says that could tip the strategic balance among world powers, requiring China and Russia to step up their defenses to guard against potential U.S. attack. They said the U.S. military has realized that the tactics it used on countries such as and Yugoslavia are not suitable for competition against major powers, especially China and Russia, said Fang Hamling, colleagues from the Northwest Institute of Nuclear Technology, in a paper published in the Domestic Journal. It says, quote, the U.S. military believes that the EMP attacks can be combined with other types of attacks, such as the explosion of a nuclear weapon at high altitude can produce, of course, strong electromagnetic waves. Although power lines and communication towers have shields against common disturbances such as lightning, there is a known limit to their tolerance. They talk about of course, the EMP booms that they have now developed, all sorts of crazy stuff. And then we have top Chinese nuclear scientists found dead under mysterious circumstances. Dex, this was a really strange one. We covered this around the same time that we covered that 90 of them quit all on the same day. Pretty creepy stuff, right?
Yeah, we have both of those articles. I don't know if you skipped it, but yeah, there was 90 that left that all quit at the same time, and then mysteriously this one is found deceased, right? So,
and remember when this happened, we said this paints a target on their back. This isn't like quitting a job at, John Hopkins or something here. It's not like, oh, I'm quitting this research job and I'm going to go get another one. You are a nuclear scientist for the Chinese government. When you quit, let alone, you are basically, listed from a whole list of jobs. You basically screwed yourself. You've got a target on your back. You and your family are now in shame because you're not doing your duty for the Chinese government. You can't just replace a nuclear scientist. They're a nuclear scientist. So when 90 left, almost half of all of their scientists left in a single day, that should tell us something. Honestly, that when this happened, even other world news around the world was saying they believe that they left because they didn't want on their hands. So something was going to happen, that it was so horrible that they would pick basically not having a career, ruining their career over doing what they were asked to do. It says 90 CAS nuclear scientists who resigned were allegedly poached, right? And then, right after that, top Chinese nuclear scientists found under mysterious circumstances. It's like, hey, we're going to send a message to you. This could be any of you. I have since heard rumors that most of them have gone back for one reason or the other. I don't know if that is true. If you know the answer to that and you have a source behind it, email me at adam@marfooglenews.com, because I think that it would be worth. Nobody covered this, the 90 scientists quitting. Nobody covered it in the U.S., and if they did, it was very, very, back page stuff, just over in just a second. Well, we're still on the subject. I hope you guys understand that we are independent news. I hope that all of you end up going over and checking out our website. Make sure to check out EMP Shield. You can actually protect yourself against the same kind of attacks that we're talking about. At least protect your car so you don't get stuck somewhere if you get a nuclear, of course, an EMP strike or even a CME strike. If we have this happened, you'll be fine, but your electronics and your house, your generators, your solar systems, they'll all be down. If you want all of those to run, do what the military, what DHS, what DOD, do what they're doing. They're going through companies like EMP Shield. In fact, EMP Shield has contracts with DHS, DOD, and now the DEMSO team helping protect the Texas grid. If you want to protect your stuff, get stuff like this. There's a reason why we, again, did this. Before them, we were trying to tell people, just get prepared in any way possible. Faraday cages if you have to. We were doing that for a year before we ever had them as an affiliate. This helps the channel. They give us a commission when you go over, and they give you a giant $50 discount per device. So it helps independent news, and it ends up helping you in a huge way too. You get a discount. Go to marfugglenews.com/EMP. That's marfugglenews.com/EMP to support a veteran-owned business and 100% American-made. Now, China, it says coming soon, China's space war against the U.S. They're basically putting it out there, both in all of these documents and everything that they just put out, is that there is a conflict in space between them, that they are using DUWs against each other, and all this stuff is happening. If you think about what is going on with the ISS, now ISS is having all these severe problems all of a sudden, and then at the same time, China has put up their own space station, and Russia is going to be joining them. They're completely separating themselves from the U.S., from everything there. Now it is literally a risk. It used to be like, well, now all these people have money entangled in China. And now everybody owes China, or they're entangled in it. And if they want to invest, it's a huge bad no-no. Basically, everybody is saying it is public knowledge that it is a mistake to invest in China right now. That means that we're not going to have this kind of, goody-goody relationship that we used to have. It's not about, I don't think, Dex, wouldn't you say that it's starting to look like it's not about money per se on the Chinese side when you get to certain levels?
Well, I think they've obviously gotten to a position now where they can generate their own wealth, their own money. They don't have to necessarily live off of all of the deals that they had structured with us. They started creating them across the globe, right? And they've got indebtedness from lots of countries. They've got ports and other things they're running. So there's lots of opportunity that they have now created and they can control. And so they don't need the whole capitalism. They don't need the rest of the the deals that they had. They've caught up. They feel like they have caught up, and they are the superpower.
And there are huge rumors, and they of course said that they were going to come out with this this monetary kind of currency that some say is going to be blockchain based. So of course decentralized, gold backed. Which, if you know anything that goes against the U.S. dollar that's gold backed, hasn't had too much luck. In fact, the people behind those aren't here with us anymore. Of course, it would be gold-backed, decentralized, on blockchain, and it would replace the fiat dollar, which was backed by oil, which, again, think about this. The all-powerful oil and oil-backed dollar, how long do you think oil is going to be around with electric cars and with everything, this huge push with all of the weather and all of this? Now everybody's getting away from gas. So they actually have to restructure off of oil over to something else. Makes sense it would be gold, but it also makes sense that it would be decentralized, this whole platform thing. Want everything digital. They want everything digital. And people aren't worried about this. There's a lot of normal people that are not worried that the current administration just asked, and in their Treasury proposals, they want to know every single time, doesn't matter what the case is, from the bank, if you withdraw more than $600. It used to be over $5,000 or $10,000 or whatever it was. Now it would be any withdrawal over $600. On top of that, they just admitted to working with FB, the social media network. They admitted that they are actually working directly with FB to control the information about, a certain subject, right? So they're directly working with them. And then within weeks of announcing that, FB puts out these notices saying, hey, do you know anybody that's too prepared? Do you know anybody that has that? And then within weeks of that, they go, hey, we want to know if anybody takes out cash in any way. Why would people take out huge withdrawals unless, again, most people take out with huge withdrawals, or if they work under the table, or if they do this, they want to know all of that. A lot of people take it out to prepare, right? They take out huge amounts of money, or they'll take out a big chunk of money so they have some in case banks go down or something happens, which, by the way, a ton of experts are saying if this EMP hits, the worst hit places will be the banks, because they'll just be done. The ATMs won't work. All that stuff won't work. So it's pretty crazy how the timeline's going. And then, not to mention, China is making miles-long space station in space, a mega spaceship. What the hell is going on here? On top of all of the weird stuff that is possibly coming, maybe the world governments are, they think they're running out of time. They want to grab space. They want to grab resources. They want to grab land or something because they know something is going to happen in the near future. I know that China has been preparing themselves for an EMP type event for years now, and now we just recently found out that they were like hardcore about this. So they've been protecting themselves, and that's exactly what that previous article said, is basically they can still hit us. We're not set, and they are. That's like a whole kind, like Russia having the ability to put. They have bunkers everywhere. They've built bunkers this whole entire time. They are able to house every citizen in Moscow down in bunkers. Where's your local bunker, huh? If we did do a full exchange, people in Moscow would be in a bunker. Well, we would be trying to go down to a hyperloop, I guess. I don't know. But again, in that same fashion, they've been preparing for EMP. Meanwhile, we were way behind. Now we are. They're working with companies like Emp Shield. Again, they're doing it now, but we're not set. We're not protected. Nobody's gonna come save you. The only thing you can do is save yourself. And again, this isn't to make people afraid. This is just to let people know. I mean, if you've lived through other conflicts, this will be something that you will probably live through too. Hopefully it doesn't hit the homeland. But there's too much. Rocket arrives for second Chinese space station. We actually showed this as well. We put this in there for information. Says BlackRock, I said Blackwater earlier, sorry to correct that, is making a tragic mistake investing in China. Huge stuff. Billionaire investor warned that BlackRock is making a tragic mistake by pouring billions of dollars into China. The philanthropist, who made $1 billion betting against the British pound, said clients of the world's largest asset manager are likely to lose money, and the national security interests of the U.S. and other democracies will be damaged. Of course, they're investing in the enemy, giving it straight to the military. So, for once, I hate this guy, or I don't know him, but I do actually hate a lot of the stuff he stands for. So, but again, this is crazy hearing from him, because you would expect this from somebody else. Dex?
Yeah, totally. I mean, this is this alone is sort of like, you got to ask, is he for real, or is he just playing a part? But yeah, this is kind of strange coming from him, right?
Yes, very. Do we have that other article that just came out today, or is that in the regular show?
Yeah, I'll throw it in screener for you.
Or up next, or screener would be great. Okay, and then let's see here. We're gonna get that up. So just today, New York Times said, by the way, this is stuff, it's like now it's hitting the mainstream news. Now they're going to tell you that this is happening. It's a back and forth, right? Well, now they have put out this article on August 29th. We have linked some really good videos. I think we've linked the Serpent's video. He did a really good analysis over this document. Is really, really insane. It's what the Shenwan paper and the, of course, People's Daily went out through, what the mouthpiece is actually saying. They basically just told every citizen that the U.S. is behind this, of course, in advance of our report being released, basically saying the origins of this, the probe that's going into where it came from. They are saying it was us, and it specifically came from a base here. They are also saying that capitalism is bad, English is bad, we don't want any connection with them, and they are doing military advertising. They're basically just all over the place. Now, apparently, there is advertisements everywhere. There's rhetoric. They're saying, hey, we're going to conflict, get pumped up. And now they're, of course, banning effeminate men. They're doing all of this stuff all at once. Basically, they are cutting ties. We are seeing it.
That op-ed is in screener.
Oh, okay, let me see here. Let me see if I can pop this open. Okay, so let's see. Let me pop this over. And this just came out, and of course it is the Times. So of course some people are going to take this with what you want because it is an op-ed. But let's see here. Check this out. What comes after the conflict on terror? War on China? This is the New York Times by Thomas Friedman. This goes into essentially talking about what is happening right now. And it says the depth of the U.S.-China integration helped fuel a much deeper globalization of the world economy and buttress 4 decades of relative peace between the world's 2 great powers. And always remember, it's great power conflicts that give us enormously destabilizing wars. It says that era of the U.S.-China globalization left some U.S. manufacturing workers unemployed while opening huge new export markets for others. It lifted out of poverty hundreds of millions of people in China, India, and East Asia while making many products much more affordable to more American consumers. So these places did this for then, and it got them out of their slump. They're out of their slump. They have other ways to make money, and they don't need it anymore. And they were working with their allies, and they're basically saying, we need to change things a bit. If you combine this with what people think may be going on here, we've got a huge problem. So I hope that people are understanding everything that is happening, everything that you didn't think was at all possible, that we're straight in the twilight zone, then you are right. So I hope that you understand that I'm just asking questions. I'm going to keep looking into it, but this is kind of a sum up of, the last 3 years that I've been looking into all of this. And I think that with the actions taken, it's pretty damn clear they are cutting ties with the U.S. And I mean, like, seriously. I mean, even the English teaching route into China is now going to be done. I can't say. So none of this information was based on my personal experiences, like talking to a DoD employee who said within 2 years, that was a few months ago. He said we would be in conflict with China within 2 years. Spoke about how they are training for everything, right? And that they're moving things all around the country. He goes, it doesn't take you don't need top secret information to know what we're about to do. There's a lot of stuff happening here, and he knew who was coming to this very special place that he is employed at. Right? He knew who they had come visiting, who was basically getting their last hoorahs before they get deployed. Very crazy stuff. So again, if you did do a super chat, we will call you out on a future on the next show. We're going to be going over to Marfoogle TV for our regular live show. So after doing this whole show, we are actually going to be doing another show. Our regular show, we're going to talk about all the rest of the news. I hope that this gets shared out, and I really do. I hope that you guys understand, any of the kind of work that we put into this. We hope that you would subscribe, but if you don't, at least suggest it to a friend. Bring it to somebody's, share with friends and family that are completely asleep to this, because it is happening, and, we're not here to tell you we told you so. We're here to tell you, we're going to be saying that. Dex, do you have anything in conclusion?
No, but I think, if you go through and look at everything that we put together over on marfooglenews.com and just kind of go through all of the evidence, all of the information, the writing is on the wall that that there's significant changes underway with China and significant changes between our relationship and them, and even going so far as to saying, conflict is just, right around the corner. It seems obvious. And, if you can't see it, go read that stuff and share it. Share this with as many people as you can.
Now, did we also link the actual Shenwan and the People's Daily articles, or at least the translations of these?
That's the first one there. It's a Google Translate.
Okay, I do have it. Okay, so before we leave, this is the main thing. This was the article that was put out in China. It says everyone can feel that a profound change is underway. This basically explains everything. This explains talking about the Central Cyberspace Administration of China issued a notice to strengthen the management in the Rice Circle. There's several key parts here where they're actually talking about how they're going to get into a space. They're in a space conflict with the U.S., that they are making blockades that are making it impossible for them to do stuff. They're basically saying bad, bad, bad. The U.S. is bad, bad, bad. Who knows?
Yeah, and you can get, and if you're reading this, you'll kind of get lost in the very beginning because you think, oh, it's all about the entertainment industry, right? It's all the entertainment. But when you get to the end, and when you get to, when you start to put the pieces together, because it talks about entertainment, it talks about capitalism, and some of the things we've already discussed. But then at the end, I think it's the second to last paragraph, it really hones in on the actual threats that they're claiming.
Let me read this last part, and this is, I hope this gets shared out. This is what the official mouthpiece. This does not go out unless it is approved by the official Chinese government. This is their actual extension of themselves. This has to be directly approved by Xi. To go out, if it, especially when it's something about their relationship with other countries, everything. So keep that in mind. This is their gospel. This is considered fact to everyone who reads it. And again, there are certain things that the entire country does. It's not like here where some people kind of pay attention. Almost every single person in China has either read this or been made to read this. It says China is currently facing an increasingly severe and complex international environment. The United States is implementing increasingly severe military threats, economic and technological blockades, financial strikes, political and diplomatic siege against China, and is launching warfare, cyber warfare, and public opinion against China. It says wars and space conflicts have increasingly launched a color revolution against China through the fifth column within China. If at this time we have to rely on those big capitalists as the main force of anti-imperialist and anti-hegemonyism, and we are still catering to the American nipple strategy. This is I just can't believe this. It says so that our young generation loses their strong and masculine vibes, then we don't need enemies to fight. I fell first, just like the Soviet Union back then, letting the country collapse, letting the country's wealth be looted, and letting the people fall into serious disaster. Therefore, the profound changes currently taking place in China are precisely in response to the current severe and complicated international situation, precisely in response to the barbaric and ferocious attacks that the United States has begun to launch against us, right? So they are saying that we have launched barbaric attacks towards them. This went out on August 29th, about 8 days ago, and it went out as gospel to the entire country of China.
And I think that color comment is probably why we're seeing George S. speaking out against them. Like, they're calling him out and he's calling them out. That's what he's famous for in all these other countries, was doing color revolutions.
So pay attention, share this out if you can. I don't actually really say that. We've said that maybe twice in the last year. This, I mean it. I hope that people understand that this at least gives you enough information to convince somebody who's completely on the other end of the spectrum that we may just be heading around that corner. The reason why everybody should have extra stuff, extra food, extra water, it's just responsible. It's not, you don't have to go crazy overboard, at least not yet. But you do need to put aside, especially if you are not financially stable right now, make sure to just do a little bit at a time, even $5 a week, and it will add up. If we do get another 2 years before this happens, you'll have plenty of stuff stocked up by then. If this never happens, hallelujah, God bless. But I would rather know and be prepared and have some stuff on the side than not. But again, now that's bad advice, because now you might be a crazy, right? You might be one of those T cells, right? Well, thank you, Dex, and I appreciate you. If we do get knocked at all, please come to our aid. I really appreciate you guys. Thank you, Dex. Appreciate you today.
Great show. Much love.
We'll see you over on our sister channel, our other network, Marfoogle TV, in just a few minutes. Have a good day. Be safe. Be prepared. And Marf out. Because that makes your brain a super. He's walking around just like a Snoop Dogg. Maybe white Tupac. Remember, you can find everything over on Marfoogle.